Hello there. Thank you for taking a moment to watch this video, and on this specific training we're going to continue talking about the PhoneBurner integration with Outreach. Now hopefully at this point you've already installed the application into your Outreach environment and you've customized your dispositions in PhoneBurner to match the dispositions that you have in Outreach. Now what I'd like to do is I'd like to jump back over to Outreach. And let's take a look at the app that you've now installed. So we're going to click on the PhoneBurner icon on the left-hand side. Now the first time that you go here, you may have some windows that pop up that ask you to log in and grant permissions and things like that. Now I've already done that and I'm already logged into PhoneBurner, so I'm taken to the screen where I see all of my sequences and all of the call tasks within those sequences that have calls that are due. We ignore sequences and steps that don't have call tasks that are due right now. Now, of course, if you have calls that are not part of a sequence, those are going to be part of your miscellaneous call tasks at the top. I also want to point out that you'll notice that in some cases we've got the word contacts and sometimes the word leads here. Because our integration right now will only work with records that are syncing from Salesforce over to Outreach. And we're specifically looking at the contacts and leads objects from Salesforce. When you go to start a dial session, we need to have those broken down into either contacts or leads. And in most cases, you're probably either syncing leads or contacts over from Outreach. And in those cases, you won't even see contacts or leads listed here. You'll see here for step 1 in my appointment setter campaign, it doesn't reference contacts or leads. And the reason why is because this one call that is due is either a contact or a lead, so there's no reason to distinguish one or the other. We're just going to launch that dial session. But if we go down here to step 2, you can see step 2 has 73 calls that are due for contacts and one that's due for leads. So when we go to start that dial session, PhoneBurner needs to have those separated so that we're displaying the right information to you in the dial session window. But let's go ahead and jump into a dial session. Let's say I wanted to make these 73 calls. I click the Start Dialing button, and that's going to pop up a new window. At that point, I need to make sure that I am logged into my Salesforce account. And now the system is going to start to set up my dial session. I'm going to go ahead and click Continue. Now here I'm presented with a bunch of buttons. These actually represent specific settings for the specific types of calls that I might want to make. Remember how I was talking to you about being able to create different disposition sets, dial-in and live answer sets? So if you've got different calling campaigns, different sequences, you may want to have different settings per step within that sequence. So here, for example, you can see I've got my appointment setter campaign step 1. I might want to have different settings, maybe different voicemails, different emails, different dispositions that are available to be used for my step 1 calls versus my step 2 calls. And you can pre-configure those settings so that you don't have to make sure that you get everything set up correctly every time. You can have all of that done in what's called a dialer preset. But for this specific example, I'm going to click on Manual Settings. That's going to take me to this page that's going to allow me to make all of the individual choices right now. I can choose a phone script if I want to have a phone script. I can choose the dialing set. Now let's go ahead and use the Outreach training set that I just created. I have my live answer set. I'm going to choose the Outreach training live answer set, again, the one we just created. I can choose the voicemail that I want to leave. Remember, our voicemail button is configured to use whatever voicemail we choose at the start of the dial session. Again, you could potentially assign the voicemail to the button itself, and you wouldn't even have to make that choice here. I can choose my caller ID. I can choose the dialer mode, pause and preview or power dialing. When you're first getting used to PhoneBurner, pause and preview is a powerful option because it moves you through the dial session a little bit slower. I'm going to use power dialing, and then I'm going to hit continue. Now I need to get connected to the dial session. I can either dial in using my phone, so my cell phone, my office phone, my home phone, whatever phone I want to use, I can use that to dial into the system. Or I can use my browser, a headset plugged into my computer, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go ahead and select that and get connected. Now that I'm connected, I can start dialing. Once I hit start dialing, that's going to bring up my first record. If it goes to voicemail, I don't have to listen to the entire greeting. I can drop my pre-recorded voicemail. But if I want to leave a live voicemail, I'd stay on the line, wait for the beep, and when that call is done, or when I'm sent to voicemail, that's when I'd say what I want to say, and then I'd click that left live voicemail button. If I want to just click the no answer button, send an email, I click that no answer with email, and I'm off to my next call. Now let's say somebody answers the phone live. There's no pause, no delay, no awkward silence. I'll just click live answer at some point during that conversation, and then I'm going to end the call when I'm done talking to them. At which point I'm going to be presented with the live answer set of buttons. That's that second set of buttons that will only display after you've completed a live call with somebody, giving you ultimate control over the dispositions that are in your view at any given time. That way you're not distracted with a bunch of extra dispositions or buttons that you just don't have any reason to take advantage of here. Now that we've wrapped up a live call, I want to take a moment here, and you can do this as well. When you have a live call, you can take as much time as you want or need after you end that call to wrap up any updates on that record. Now I want to take a few moments here and talk about this window here. This is an iframe pulled over from Salesforce. So this is the actual Salesforce record that you're going to be seeing in the dial session window. So any changes that you make here, when you save those changes are going to go back to Salesforce. That's going to be saved directly to Salesforce. You can also view all activity history on this record, whether it was outreach specific activity or activity just in Salesforce, giving you a complete view of the history on that contact. Also, if you go to the notes section is going to show you all notes related to that contact record. And this is pulled directly from the outreach system. So if you're syncing your notes from outreach to Salesforce, you should see those notes here, plus any notes that are being added directly to Salesforce. If you want to create a note, there's a couple different ways that you can handle that. I'm going to jump back over here to details, but I'm going to point out you can create a note on this page as well. But let's go to details. There are a couple different ways that we've identified teams taking notes when making calls using PhoneBurner. One of those is to create or have a custom field, a large text box field, that they just add to their layout in Salesforce for adding notes. What's nice about this is it's a field on the contact record or lead record in Salesforce, making it easy to deal with when you're looking at specific records and adding to layouts and things like that. So it's a really powerful option to have just one box to contain all of your notes. Don't forget to save those once you make any changes. The other option is to actually take advantage of the notes object in Salesforce. So I'm going to click on the create note option here, which allows me to add a note. Is easy, right? So I add my note and I save it. This creates the note record on that object in Salesforce. Those notes are going to show up here so that you can see that information in future dial sessions when you're calling through these contacts. And then once you're done, you're just going to click on the disposition that makes the most sense for the call outcome. In this particular case, I'm going to click on answered, meeting set, and that'll move me on to my next call. And now I just move from one call to the next, clicking on the right disposition based off of what we're experiencing on the call. If it's no answer, I click no answer. If it's voicemail, I click voicemail. If it's a gatekeeper, I click gatekeeper. Whatever buttons that I've created in my account. Now, before we wrap up, I do want to point out that our disposition that was configured to trigger an email has in fact sent that email, and you'll see that up here in the upper right-hand portion of the page. And then finally, if you're having issues with this iframe not showing up, you need to, one, make sure that you've installed the PhoneBurner app in Salesforce, because without that, you're not going to be able to view this iframe. The other option may be related to security settings in your Salesforce account. You may need to add PhoneBurner as trusted domains within your security settings. Super easy to do that in your Salesforce org. But that's it for this specific training. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope this helps you and your organization get more done in less time using the power of PhoneBurner. Thanks again, and happy dialing.